Inexperienced guys can make great boyfriends. I'm F23 and my boyfriend is M25. After a couple of dates with my current boyfriend, I asked him about his previous relationships and he told me he's never been in one. I was a little surprised at first and a little apprehensive, but after getting to know him more, he put all my anxieties to rest. Soon after, we officially became boyfriend and girlfriend. Ladies, I'm telling you, give the inexperienced guys a chance. This man is so loving and adoring. He treats me like a queen. He's kind, he's respectful, and he knows how to treat women. He doesn't take me for granted. He said he spent so much time on Reddit reading all the dating horror stories on all these subs, just hoping to be lucky enough to get in a relationship and do the exact opposite of what he read. I'm the one that's lucky if I'm being honest. I know that there are a lot of problematic or misogynistic men who are inexperienced, but I'm not talking about those guys. The guys who are just shy and a little awkward. Those are where you'll find an amazing partner. Your mile may vary, but I think inexperienced men are incredible, especially mine. Underrated thing about dating inexperienced people is that you're going to be their first full romantic love. Those who have been in other relationships may take much longer to finally open up. Counterpoint. They'll make their amateur relationship mistakes with you, and everyone makes amateur relationship mistakes in their first real relationship. Sounds like he's not so experienced anymore, or at least he's a fast learner. If a man is genuinely interested, he will approach you. Do women really believe this? I was just reading a post from a woman who was stating her belief that if a man doesn't approach, that means he is uninterested, and conversely, if he has any interest at all, he will definitely make a move. I find this fascinating because it is so completely false. For most men, 99.99999% of the time when we see a woman, we are absolutely interested in approaching, but we don't unless she's given some sort of clear signal that she's open to being approached, and even then, a huge percent of men are clueless to her signals. Many guys are shy or introverted. Plus, there is a fear of being rejected. The bigger fear of being labeled a creep, #MeToo, wanting to respect her space, being told repeatedly not to approach in public, etc., etc. How is it possible that so many women are oblivious to this reality? I don't have time to sit around waiting for someone else to initiate a relationship. When I met my now husband in college, I liked him on sight, so I asked him if he wanted to come over and watch movies. At the end of the night, we said goodbye, and I offered my phone number in case he wanted to hang over the weekend. His response? Oh, no thanks, I'm working. The next morning, he had remembered that I mentioned my blog, found my email, and apologized for being a moron and turning my number down. Married 9 years this past September. If you like someone, then say something. It's your job to give yourself your best life. Don't wait for someone else to do it. It's your job to give yourself your best life. Don't wait for someone else to do it. Applicable to many things. Thank you. I think it's more, if a man genuinely likes you, he will show you. AKA, if you keep showing a man interest and he never texts back or plans meetups first or whatever, he doesn't like you that much. Update to the best first date and guy who deleted his profile. Yesterday, I made a post about having a great first date. The guy had deleted his online dating account afterwards, and I was looking for opinions. I ended up removing the post because I was getting some comments telling me that he was going to ghost me and that it was a red flag. I got anxious/annoyed because we had a second date planned, and that was just not true. It will not let me comment on the old post, so I am sharing on a new one because people keep asking for an update. Yesterday, he picked me up since he lives close by. We went and got coffees and walked at a local trail until it got dark. I invited him back to my place because I had baked a homemade bread and wanted him to try it. He ended up telling me that he deleted his profile because he really wants to focus on me and feels hopeful about us. He says he understands that there's a chance it might not work out, but he doesn't want any distractions and wanted to be respectful. We had a wonderful time together and ended up falling asleep on the couch watching movies. He invited me to come to his house on Friday where he will cook me dinner. After 2 years of terrible first dates, I'm very optimistic. I know people told me to watch for love bombing, but I've been in therapy for 3 years for an old abusive relationship, and it really doesn't feel like that to me. Sometimes it's okay to be vulnerable and intentional. I think this guy is a very big green flag. Thanks everyone for your advice yesterday. I apologize for deleting the post, but I started to get worried and have bad thoughts. It was better just to cut it off before I self-sabotage. Yay! In my experience, this is exactly how things go when you meet someone you're going to be with for a while. There's no sense of wanting to keep playing the field and keeping your options open. No desire to go on dates with other matches. Things just click. I hope things continue to go well for you and this guy. Thank you so much. I really wanted this to be the case, but I was a little skeptical, which is why I made my original post. I appreciated how open he was and that he flat out shared that with me yesterday. I'm going to take a break from mine too. It's only fair and respectful. I really want to continue to explore this with him and see what happens. People move at different paces, and what works for you and him might be love bombing to someone else. So don't worry about it too much as long as you and him are on the same page. That being said, I will caution you that if you two did meet online, you have really only spent a couple hours with each other so far, and that is not even close to enough time to really get a sense of how compatible you are. But at the end of the day, that makes no impact on decisions like how much time you spend together and how fast y'all move. These are mutually exclusive concepts, and as long as you can avoid putting him on a pedestal, you're chilling. Enjoy getting to know him. And also, in general, Reddit isn't always the best place if you're looking to others to soothe your anxieties or worries about stuff like this. Good luck. Please stop telling people who have never been loved to just stop worrying and live for themselves. I see this all the time. Someone in their late 20s says that they never had a relationship and that they feel lonely, that they are hurt from being rejected, and that they are worried they will never find anyone. And then somebody comments one of the following: just enjoy being single. It has its pros too. You need to learn to be comfortable alone before looking for a relationship. Do the things you want to do, not because you think it will attract someone, but just because you want to have a good time. It will happen naturally one day. You'll find someone when you least expect it. None of that is a good advice for someone who has been alone throughout their entire life. It's only natural that someone who has been alone for years doesn't want to be alone. I feel like it's becoming almost like a cult of independence, with lonely people constantly getting told to just be happy alone and wait until it happens naturally when you least expect it. Except for many, it doesn't. No, seriously, I cannot stress this enough. For many people, relationships don't just come naturally. And there's nothing wrong with not being okay with being alone. Yeah, I wish people were simply more empathetic about it. Saying just enjoy being single and learn to love yourself is just a way to brush off real hard emotions that come along with being single later in life. If my non-single loved ones would just take the time to think about how hard it is to be alone during things like a pandemic, or during a storm, or while I eat dinner, or while I need to go get a biopsy done, or while I'm shopping for food, or while I'm home after work, etc., 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 and said something like, that must be really hard. I know eventually you will find someone because you're a great person, but if the loneliness ever becomes too much, please feel free to call me and I will support you how I can. You know what's incredibly toxic to the mental health of people who have had trauma? That no one will love you until you love yourself BS. I can't count the number of times I've seen it. For those who have been convinced or convinced themselves that they are genuinely, inherently unlovable, it just perpetuates the feeling that they'll never have a relationship with someone who loves them. After all, if they're so worthless and unlovable and unworthy, how could anyone ever be attracted to them or want to be with them? It's so discouraging and just perpetuates their self-hatred. I really wish people would stop saying it. Yeah, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, love and belonging, friends, relationships, etc., come before self-esteem. You need some outside validation sources. It doesn't all come from inside. Also, everyone assumes that people who are single don't do this already. They assume we have such low standards of ourselves that we don't have hobbies or enjoy life or have good living standards, etc. Kinda patronizing, to be honest. Would you date yourself? I asked this question because I've had friends and people who I have known that tend to set unrealistic expectations for what they are looking for in a partner. As an example, I had a friend who was morbidly obese but refused to go out with a woman who was obese or even overweight. He would use words like ugly or gross when observing women he found unattractive. This man went years without dating, even though he would complain about being lonely, and unfortunately died last year. How about thoughts on realistic standards? Yeah, without hesitation. And I have dated versions of myself in the past. They were all lovely. Unfortunately, our stubbornness always led to some disagreement that neither of us backed down or compromised on. No, being willing to date me is a major red flag. I began asking myself this question 2 or 3 years ago. That's when it hit me that I wasn't where I needed to be and changed. Now the answer is yes, I would date myself. First date, and she looked nothing like her profile photo. I, 27M, matched with a woman on a dating app and she was local, so we exchanged numbers. We're texting back and forth for a day and I asked if she'd like to meet up for a drink or coffee after work on a Wednesday. She agreed to go out for a drink. I drove over and when I walked in to meet her, she was significantly heavier than her profile photo. Probably like 40 pounds more. It was a big enough change that I didn't really recognize her and she waved over and called me to one of the tables. I'm a sociable person, so I greeted her and gave her a hug and we each had a drink and an appetizer. It was a pleasant enough way to spend an hour, even though I did not really feel like much attraction to her, but she was fun to talk to. When the bill came, I asked to split it. At that, I could tell that she was visibly mad. We had talked about going for a walk in the park in town, across from the restaurant, but after getting her card back, she announced it was late and bad weather. It was just a little cold and she had a coat, and she would call it a night. My question is, what is the best etiquette here? Should I have walked in and explained that she looks nothing like her profile picture and walked back out? She seemed to be mad that she had to pay for her meal, but I also don't believe in men paying for women's meals. She's 25, has a job, is moved out of her parents' house, and can support herself. I think you did the right thing, at least staying to get to know her before you left just based on her looks. But she doesn't seem like a good person if she's using old photos and lying about it. Also, if a woman is pissed about splitting the bill on the first date, it's a big red flag. She's immature and selfish. On a first date, you don't owe each other anything. Nah, you played it right. Had a nice chat with a stranger and built up more practice doing this. Yep, that's why first date drink and appetizer is perfect. Worst case scenario, you get some date practice and you're out $15. Is lack of ambition a turnoff for men? I'm 31F with little to no ambition. Long story short, I worked as a bookkeeper, make around $78K a year, and have no desire to climb the corporate ladder. I graduated with an accounting degree in 2015, and most people attempt to go for a CPA and a master's. Simply put, I'm too tired, lazy, and have too many mental issues to pursue further education. It's a miracle that I can even hold down a job. From a practicality standpoint, I don't want to enter into debt. The only debt I have is credit cards I pay every month. I have a car and live with my parents. I do sometimes feel shame because I'm not so ambitious. Other than that, I'm cute and overall pleasant to be around. I'm working with a therapist to sort out my issues, take my meds regularly, and do Pilates 3 to 4 times a week. So as a man, would you find this to be a turnoff? I'm looking for honest feedback because I've never had a boyfriend due to strict parents/mental health problems I mentioned before. Thanks. You're allowed to be happy. Anyone with life experience knows that as you mature, your goals will change. You never know what you'll want in 5 or 10 years, but for now, here you are. The fact that you think you show little ambition earning $78K and working out multiple times per week tells me your issues are with self-esteem. You're a catch, homegirl. Not really. Career-focused people are not really something I find interesting in a relationship. People have a lot of different things that are desirable. Ladies, can you share examples of when you hit on men and they were clueless? Like, how often do you flirt with men you're interested in and it just fails, and they're unaware you're hitting on them? What do you usually do that you feel most men don't pick up on? I met a girl at a bar in Germany one time, and we got talking, and she was also an English speaker. Turned out she actually was studying at the same university as me. She seemed really chatty and added each other on Snapchat. After the trip, we got off the bus from the airport. She suggested that I could go back to hers for the night rather than walk home all by myself. I guess that Ryanair flight really took it out of me because despite her being surprisingly insistent on the offer, I declined because I just wanted to go to bed. Bumped into a roommate of hers a week later who was with her in Germany, and they told me straight up she was trying to get with me. Felt pretty stupid in hindsight. When I was about 16, I was at a friend's birthday party. She had friends from out of town visiting, and one of the girls was cute, and we talked for pretty much the entire night. She gave naive 16-year-old me every sign that she was into me. I thought she was just friendly, and at one point we were sitting in the back room watching a movie with everyone, and she started showing me how her Velcro fly on her pants was so easy to open. She opened and closed it in front of me multiple times. I mean, Velcro is cool, but it's not that different from a regular fly. She showed me how to get into her pants, and I thought she was a Velcro nerd. I drove 5.5 hours to hang out. No big deal, haha. Brother. This one hurt to read. Girls of Reddit, what are some green flags that you were looking for in a guy? Initially, I was asking the opposite question, how to find a girl with green flags, but I feel like I should probably take a good hard look inward and be a green flag myself before I can attract a girl like that. There's plenty I can improve. Hardest thing I'm dealing with is low self-esteem and being a bit more negative than before. A toxic relationship kind of got me there. So women of Reddit, what are some green flags that you personally look for in a guy? I'm very curious. Have you found a guy like that? What are you struggling with? A guy that can laugh at his own mistakes. One that doesn't have to be the smartest in the room. A man who listens instead of waiting for his turn to talk. They keep their living spaces nice. Means I won't be dealing with all future housework alone. They listen to listen and not to just respond. Easy to resolve things with those kinds of people usually. They can do things alone and not expect me to tag along to things I'm not in, just so they can have company. Less risk of codependency. I want signs I won't be a surrogate mother and can have healthy conversations with them. The listening thing is the most important to me, and my partners have that in spades. Always has my back and is reliable. Consistency and reliability are both huge for me. Is it a turnoff to ask a woman if I can kiss them? So I'm in mid-20s and I've never kissed anyone. Been on a few dates but never ended one in a kiss. Moment just wasn't there. I'm just worried about how to approach this when I eventually go on a date with someone I want to kiss. First question, is that usually a first date thing? Second question, and what I'm mainly needing advice with is it a turnoff to ask if you can kiss them? I really want to respect the boundaries of the women I go out with. I feel like if I just go for it and they don't want to kiss, then that would be a bigger turnoff, right? But I've also heard that asking to kiss signals that I have no confidence and I'm not forward. I really just feel like asking is respectful and less awkward. I think I'm really just anxious about my first kiss in general, especially at 25 years old. Just wanted to see what the consensus was on asking first. I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. Consent is always good. Definitely would prefer it over just going for it, especially out of the blue. You don't always necessarily have to phrase it as a question either. My husband first kissed me by working it into a playful conversation, flirty asking me to come closer, and when I asked why he said he couldn't kiss me if I was so far away, it made his intention super clear and gave me the opportunity to say no if I wanted to. He also kissed me, then asked me out, so first kiss is whenever the moment is right. There's also the slightly lean in and wait for them to bridge the gap aspect too, or simply letting them know you would like to kiss them, i.e. I really want to kiss you right now. And naturally, I would think if they're on the same page, they'll either try to kiss you themselves or invite one, i.e. consent. I, 20F, had my first kiss this summer. The guy knew I never kissed before. He asked me to kiss me before doing so. It genuinely made me feel so happy and appreciated. I obviously said yes to him. If anything, it was a turn on. I talked about it with friends and they all agreed about how sweet that question was. I said go for it. I ask all the time. Just be confident when asking, and it won't come off weird. Asking is good. Not everyone likes it because it's been interpreted as not taking what you want, which is a terrible attitude if you stop to think about it. Men aren't predators and women aren't prey. We are all human beings and we all have a say. Foster a consent-centric atmosphere and you'll be good. To piggyback on this, it depends on the woman. It sounds like you might prefer someone who is okay with this level of communication. Most people don't. I'm the same as you, and I always ask just because of anxiety. Sometimes they say no and I'm fine with that. Sometimes they say no because I asked and didn't just make the move. In my eyes, that's just a red flag in general. But most people seem to operate this way. Be patient and you will find someone who understands. Spit in my mouth! I've been talking with this one girl for a few weeks. Today I called to hear about her day and she told me this. Most of her friends are male and she hangs out with them most nights. Last night they were all playing a drinking game. This game essentially was, if you laugh, you take a shot. So she's playing with this guy and he's not laughing at her jokes. Another dude in the room tells her it would make him laugh super hard if he spits in her mouth, to which she agreed and allowed. After this, she mentioned that she was sober the entire time and did not do this because she was drunk, but because she thought it was funny. She was telling me this over the phone and I'm like, WTF, why are you telling me some dude is spitting in your mouth? In my head. I know I am in no position to tell her what to do, but what? Why would you tell someone you're interested in that? How would y'all respond? I think after typing this all out, you already knew the answer. What? Nah. As a woman, I'm telling you, leave and don't look back. That's not behavior that you'd expect from someone who should at the very least slightly care about you. I think this experience saved you a lot of time and effort. Dated a girl like this once. All her friends were guys. I later found out that she had slept with a lot of them and that I was supposed to be cool with her hanging out with them alone. Needless to say, she told me I was insecure and manipulative when I didn't like it. It's not that she's testing you or anything, bro. Her view on what's acceptable and what's not is completely distorted and you'll never reason with her. I'd recommend leaving before you get too emotionally attached. My date wouldn't stop talking about stew and told me I was boring. So I, 21F, has been texting this guy, 21M, for a few weeks and things were going great. He was sweet, attentive, and easy to talk to, no weird vibes whatsoever. He asked me out on a date and I was so excited. He literally would not stop talking about food the entire time. Any question he asked me about myself was food related, asking me to rank my favorite cheeses, what way I like to cook vegetables, when the last time I ate a steak was. If I was able to change the subject, he would talk about it for a bit before bringing the conversation back to food. He had a stew cooking at home, apparently, and wouldn't stop talking about this stew. We were mid-conversation and he cut me off to say he was anxious about the stew and needed me to say something to comfort him. Later, he was mid-sentence and stopped talking out of nowhere and just said, "Oh, sorry, I was thinking about my stew again." Every conversation always came back to the stew. I learned nothing about him that wasn't food related and he didn't try to find out anything else about me. He would get a bit agitated at how I was answering his food questions and told me I was boring. At the end of the date, he gave me a high five and left. Neither of us has texted since, so it's safe to say it was a mutually bad date. But I can't help but feel like I did something wrong. I'm hurt that he thought I was boring when he didn't even really give me a chance to make a good impression or share anything about myself. I tried to answer his food questions and redirect the conversation when possible. I'm not sure what else I could have done. I've had some bad luck dating after getting out of an abusive relationship, and this just really upset me for some reason. I was really excited about this guy. Haha, rank your favorite cheeses gave me a good laugh. Was your date with Charlie Kelly?
How much cheese have you eaten today? How much cheese is too much cheese? Any amount of cheese before a date is too much cheese.
The ranking cheeses would have made me laugh too if he didn't proceed to get frustrated that I could only rank a few. You must be stewing in anger. Stew is fucking delicious and I think about it all the time. I think I may have found your soulmate. Date someone who will sit down and say, let's fix this, instead of being a child and ignoring you. I think that one of the saddest things about a failed relationship is realizing you both could have made it work if they were truly in love with you like you were with them. They would have fought for you instead of being ass faking the funk. But they didn't, did they? Their words didn't match a damn thing they said. Sadly, that only means that you love them more than they love you, so let's all build that bridge and get over it. Oh my god, I cannot tell you how amazing it is to be with someone whose philosophy is you and me versus the problem, not you versus me. After my divorce, I met my current wife. Our first disagreement was over a scheduling conflict involving a family dinner. I was getting frustrated and started raising my voice a little. She walked up, put her hands on my cheeks and said, hey, it's you and me versus the problem, not you versus me. For whatever reason, that completely changed the mood of the conversation. I was so used to how things worked in my previous marriage, so her response was very refreshing. Also, I'm not the type to share emotions and stuff like that, but she does this thing where she draws an imaginary circle around her face and says no judgment, just listening. It's cute and it makes me feel comfortable. Oh, and one more thing. I fucking love the shit out of this girl. This is such a good outlook. Congrats, my man. I lost a really meaningful relationship in part because my ex saw problems as being between us as opposed to things we can meet and solve together. I think sometimes you need time for yourself, but I totally agree with you. I love when people choose to fix things because it's easier to do nothing. Worth things are never easy. Seriously, my last two relationships I went in telling them I needed communication and if something is wrong, tell me so we can figure it out together. Both times I was sidelined by them wanting to break up over issues we could have talked about and dealt with, but instead they decided to sit on it and let it simmer to a boiling point and throw it all away. If you find someone who is willing to talk things through, you found a keeper. Woman pays for everything, every time. I've been dating a woman, we both are in our mid-30s, for 3 months now, and things are really great. We share the same likes and interests, but one thing is really odd. Whenever we're out, she insists on paying for everything. It's always her treat, even if it's a bus ticket for less than €3. She is really persistent and skilled in both not having it any other way and turning down all conversations about it. I've been trying to address this several times, but she will always smile it away and ask me to not have this conversation. Apart from that, we can talk about anything. To my knowledge, she works in an office and hasn't won the lottery or anything. For next week, she has proposed going to a really pricey restaurant. I told her I only wanted to come if I could pay, but she just asked me not to be silly. I told her that I have money, but she just smiled and said she knew. She even kissed me and initiated sex. So I stopped arguing. This was yesterday. IF used to do this. Reasons. I don't care about money. I knew I was way better off. I wanted to do a lot of things that ultimately cost, and I wanted to do it with him. So I saw it as a normal cost for what I wanted to do. Separate, as this applies for the very early stages, I never liked someone paying for me, as especially men often have expectations when they pay for a woman. It's a minefield I prefer to avoid. I am more cautious now and try and make paying equal, because some people are blank. Smile. I had a boyfriend that was like this. One day he said, don't ask me. If you really wanted to pay, you transfer it to my account and not let me pay. He was right. I only asked to be nice, but after he said that, I started transferring money to him when I actually felt like doing it. You have to impose your grounds. If you really don't want her to pay, then don't let her pay. Throw a fit. Transfer her the money. Update. We just talked on the phone. This time she didn't avoid it. She actually addressed it and said she didn't feel good about what she'd done yesterday and that she understood that it's an issue. So the main reason why she does it is she can afford it. There is no big secret, but she seems to be really good at her job. She likes feeling generous when she hates the feeling of being at the receiving end. This is how it started. Then it felt to her a bit like a game to her. She apologized and said from now on it's going to be 50-50 if it made me feel better. Compromise. Happy to hear y'all communicated clearly and came to this conclusion, OP. Curvy? Question mark. Who else is frustrated when people choose curvy on a dating profile when they're not curvy but instead overweight? I know I'll get some backlash from this, but choosing curvy when it should say extra pounds or overweight messes up the searches and shows people that men would not otherwise choose. I mean, if you want someone to choose you as you are, then the correct category is important. I like to be honest on my profile. I asked some people if I was curvy or a few extra pounds. Most people said I was curvy. I think I'm a few extra pounds. One guy called me a fat ass whale. It's hard to know what people on a dating app think. Do I put curvy? Or are those people just being nice because they know me? Do I put an obese whale because that one guy thinks so? Do I put a few extra pounds, which I think is true, and maybe if I am curvy, the man will be pleasantly surprised? It's so freaking hard. Some men say they are fit and athletic when they play beer league ball or hockey one day a week. When I think fit or athletic, I think of a cut gym guy who works out often, not a dad bod or a beer gut. How many people mention camping and hiking as a hobby, yet haven't done it since they were 15? People are describing their ideal self a lit of the time. At least their esteem is high. Those categories are hard though, for real. By my weight for my height, I am average, but by dimensions, I'm curvy. So I literally have no idea what to put there. If I put curvy, are people going to take it as a euphemism that I am larger than I am? If I put an average, are people going to not be attracted to me because some people prefer more athletic / less voluptuous look? IME, no two people I know have an equivalent definition of curvy. So I feel like this is kind of just a garbage choice no matter what you look like. Do guys actually like crazy girls? I've been told guys like crazy girls supposedly because they're better in bed. Is this true to some extent? What would make a woman considered crazy? That's the process of being single. You date around, meet some eccentric types, and then you're like, I gotta settle down. I almost died last week. I think it's more that a guy is likely to put up with BS to have good sex. Girls do it too. Neither is conductive to a relationship. Depends on the level of crazy. There's crazy fun, crazy, and then batshit crazy. Crazy fun is generally the crazy everyone loves. Everything is just more perfect and they're just more fun to be around. Crazy is sort of the same, but a little more edgier, more interesting, more open-minded. And then you got batshit crazy. You just want to stay the frick away from that. It's like restraining order crazy, move to another state or even country crazy. Like open a closet and they have a shrine for you type of crazy. This guy crazies.